everyone already knows who's online, that they have to complete the form. The policy for attending the meeting online, if you're a CB4 member, is already on the website. Let's see, what else? If you have your phones on, if you could just, Pete, is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put your phone on mute. Let's see, where am I? Let's go around the room and introduce ourselves. Thank you. Clearly, I don't have my speech in front of me. So we are, no, this is not the one. No. We are recording live online on YouTube. And let's go around the room for right now, please, and introduce ourselves. Dolores Rubin. Thank you, Dolores.
Paul Ames.
Lisa David.
George Stuccia.
Maria Ortiz.
Roberta Barnett.
Pete Diaz.
Katie Savage. Rachel Lee.
Brian Stein.
Katie Stokes.
Matt Klein. Ian Buckley. John Danielle. No.
Thank you. And online we have
Kevin Collins.
Charles
Charles.
Montorio Archer.
Glenn Brambert.
All right, thank you so much. I cannot see the attendees online, but if this is your first meeting, how the meeting proceeds is that we have presenters speak. We hear a presentation. Committee members first discuss it, ask questions, make comments, and then it goes to the attendees. Please raise your hand if you want to speak after the committee has spoken. After the public speaks or asks questions or makes comments, it comes back to committee. We have a discussion. We decide if we're going to be writing a letter that goes to full board for final approval to the January meeting. And I think that's it.
So our first item on the agenda tonight is an update on conditions and enforcement at 308, 310, 318, 320, 322, 324, 326, 328, 330, 332, 334, 336, and 338, and 340 West 49th Street. Buildings we've dealt with in this committee quite many times before. And I first want to ask anyone who is an attendee online who wants to speak on this matter, please raise your virtual hand and Nellie will bring you over. So when we get to that part of the meeting, we're ready to go. We have Kristen Banovich here today, who has appeared in front of the committee before. And Christian, if you could just lead off as to submit a number of letters from the community board to your company. Tell us first introduce yourself, so answer the name, what your role is. We have some new members on the committee, and then we can go right into discussion.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Christian Banovich with New Amsterdam Property Management, the manager for this portfolio on 49th Street. In terms of an update, I believe Liana Harrington from HCC is also in attendance. So, I'll let her also speak to our recent meetings, which I think were very productive. We had met with Liana and also the tenant association at 49th Street earlier in November. It was our first meeting. And as I think, if we recall to our last community board meeting, that was definitely one of the takeaways, that it was apparent that we should be connected, and we did connect. And we went through items as it relates to, that TA wanted to discuss in terms of, I have a list in terms of where camera placements were. We were provided a spreadsheet of conditions that needed to be repaired that the tenants had provided to Liana directly. And so we've been working through that. And I've also sent all of this information to the community board or to Nellie on Tuesday. So I'm sure this can all be referenced at any point in time. I'm happy to answer any questions on it either now or later. We are also discussed several initiatives that we thought would be helpful and have put those in place. And so, one of those was to have more signage in the lobbies of all of the buildings to make sure that any individual who is entering there knows that they're very clearly being monitored by camera, in hope that that would be a deterrent for some individuals that have unfortunately been taking packages that were not theirs or other activity. We've also have started to send out communications not only in English, but also in Spanish, as hopefully that will reach a broader audience and will be noticed. And then we are continuing to, well, simply just, provide additional support to the portfolio and are working on specific items, as in cleaning up all of the basements. We're also putting in place right now a plan to offer. We have extermination services right now that we offer to all the tenants that they can sign up for, but we're also going to add additional extermination services after hours in the event that tenants are home after 5 p.m. that they would like to receive the service then versus earlier in the day. So in short, I would say that in our perspective, and hopefully Liana and the tenant association agrees, we are collaborating and we'll be doing another meeting and are happy to continue on in this effort, and hopefully the tenants have seen an improvement.
Christian, quick question. The information you sent to Nellie, that's in our Dropbox?
Yeah.
Yes, it's in the Dropbox.
Okay, all right. And was the communication sent out saying these items are in the Dropboxes? I did not see that.
Yeah.
I saw the flood of email, I lost it, okay. So Christian, can you just be in organized fashion, go through the major areas of the tenant concerns and the specific actions you're taking and report to the committee? I think that'd be very helpful. In the broad categories.
I would encourage everyone who has access to the Dropbox to look at the spreadsheet that we put together, because a lot of those items are, some are varying and small in nature and others are larger, but there's a theme in terms of, general comments in terms of safety, security. We've done all of the camera work. We have, continued to replace the doors and fix the doors. We've done all of the fire or the roof doors for the fire safety. So as I'm sure, I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. Those are a lot of the main topics that we have been discussing, and those are in place. Part of what we've also provided, as I mentioned previously, we provided locations of the cameras. I think that was a request that some tenants have had. So that is now there. And then other items have been, conditions that were in tenants' units that we're working with tenants to address. A lot have been completed. Some have not due to access, but we're continuing to try to get access. Liana has been very gracious in that if we experience individuals who are continuing not to provide access, and they're part of the association, that they could reach out to them as well. So I think the major points, the squatters being one, that is continuing not to be an issue right now, thankfully, and we're securing those means of entrance into the buildings. So that's not an issue. The cleaning up of those units in the basement that the squatters were habitating, so to speak, we've already done 8 truckloads for garbage pickup, and we're continuing to do that. So I think that has had a positive effect on the property. And then we're continuing to, as we're in the heating season right now, and anyone who knows in property management or anyone most of the people who probably live in apartments knows that, it's very important that our boilers are running. So we're doing tune-ups of every boiler, which has already happened in anticipation of that, just to get ahead of any possible issues on a maintenance side. And we'll continue to work through this sheet. And we'll continue to meet with Liana. I believe we're going to schedule the next meeting either this week, well, maybe not tomorrow, but next week certainly. So it's going to happen soon. And we'll continue to address any items as they arise.
When was your first meeting? What date was that?
That was the first week of November,
Yeah.
the Wednesday before the last community board meeting with this
And
committee.
when is your next meeting scheduled? Or about to be scheduled?
We'll be scheduling. I also will say that I have 2 tenants in the waiting room now, and they do have statements of their own. Their names are Tao Win and Kimberly Vargas, if they could also be brought into the room. But I will say,
How far is she represent?
HCC.
oh, yes, also, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Leana. I'm a tenant organizer at Housing Conservation Coordinator.
Right.
I'm sorry, he introduced her at the beginning. Liana Harrington.
Is there a tenant organization of these buildings?
Yes,
And she is representing them or HCC?
I'm sorry. HCC is representing the tenants in this building, and there is a tenant association, and we're gonna be bringing over some members of the tenant association right now. I had asked earlier, Nellie probably didn't hear me, for people to raise their hands if they wanted to come into the meeting. So at our last meeting, we had Liana and we had some individual tenants from the tenant association, and that's what we're gonna have tonight too.
So she's representing the tenants organization?
Yes.
Got
Also, Christian, so this next meeting, I'm sorry, what is the scheduled date approximately, Liana or Christian?
That's something that we need to confirm. We were waiting to hear back from New Amsterdam on every item that we had raised in the November meeting. So we received comments on the spreadsheet of repairs that we sent over this Tuesday afternoon. So tenants are still working to verify whether or not those repairs have all been made and in what status they're currently in.
I think the board will recommend that you set a firm date and you just get progress no matter what is done or not.
Yeah.
And then you keep on moving on, because the fact that now you are beginning to meet regularly, this will begin to address these issues in this building one by one. That's the way to keep it going.
Yes.
So if you just get the firm date, and then please, Christian, let us know when that date is, the email, so we know it's scheduled sometime in December. Christian,
We'll do the next meeting. We'll do it next week. So Leon, I'll email you separately. I just need coordinate on my side.
Yes, and I'll
And
need
what,
to
I'm
coordinate.
sorry, Liana, what was the last, or Christian, the meeting, the last meeting was November what?
It was the first week in November. I don't have my exact date.
November 5th.
November 5th.
Thanks.
So again, you know, our role is just getting the parties talking, engaging, and resolving problems, so.
Yeah,
It's not gonna get settled in a day, we're clear about that. Christian, so thank you for reporting about the heating systems, that's very helpful to know that we're not gonna hit that kind of issue. You cleaned all the cellars, and did you clean the vacant apartments also, as part of that clean out?
Yes,
And that work is completed entirely or is still ongoing?
that's going to be completed. It should be completed by the end of the day tomorrow. Barring any issues, it will be done early next week.
And Liana or Christian, all the front doors are currently working and locked at this point?
From what I've heard, yes.
Yes.
Also, right, and Nellie, can you please bring over the other 2 tenants that Liana mentioned? Thanks.
Can you repeat those names again, please? Because they didn't raise their hands.
Their names are Tao Win and Kimberly Vargas.
Yeah, they just raised their hands now.
Okay,
Got it.
thank you.
Yeah, they each have statements prepared based on what they've experienced in their buildings.
And Christian, all the vacant units are now secured,
Yes.
and no unit has an unauthorized occupant in it at this point.
No, we check daily, not to our knowledge, and we check.
Right,
So
well,
unless
no, of
something has
course.
happened since this morning, no.
Okay.
What about the apartment where they don't have access?
Yeah, then.
It says on here that
Or-
they're moving out, for kind of the non-access ones, it said they're leaving at the end of the week.
Oh, that was the one with the large violations?
Like we're 332, 1 RE, 1 FW, and 3 RW.
Okay, see, there's a little bit louder, sorry.
Oh, you just said, you asked the question, like, is everyone supposed to be in the apartments who's in there? But it looks like some of them, I'm reading the sheet correctly, you have not had the ability to have access, so you can check.
I don't think Christian can hear you. It's.
No, I can hear the question. I think just to clarify that, when we're saying people who should not be in the apartments, I think what Joe's referencing and what I'm answering is there are no squatters and who are not leaseholders in the building.
Right.
That's very different than an individual who has violations in their unit, is a leaseholder, but will not provide us access to fix the violations.
For repair, got it. So I think, we made a stride right there, that there were no unauthorized occupants of the building, period. So Liana, you want us to turn this over to the two tenant reps to present at this point?
Yes, yeah. Kimberly, Tao, if you have a preference.
Yeah, I can go first. Hi, I'm Tal Nguyen, and I was in the last board meeting, which I expressed some of my dismay at the issues that were ongoing with the building. But since that time, I will say that I do there has been progress, and what we talked about in our own internal meeting on November 5th, New Amsterdam has followed up on most of them. Now, the only thing, because we got the list back from them, the spreadsheet back from them 2 days ago. I have not had the time to canvass all the different issues from all of our tenants, in the 12 buildings to confirm with them if all these fixes have been made. Because as far as I can see with the spreadsheet, most of those issues, New Amsterdam said have been fixed. And in the past, my experience with New Amsterdam has been that, where I put a maintenance ticket in and it gets closed without confirmation of whether it really was fixed or not. So that's something I'd like to point out, Christian. But again, I'd like to commend you guys. I mean, you have been responsive. You have been sending out emails both in Spanish and English, which we wanted. And I see you guys put up the extermination sheets. I guess in my building, however, you guys, all the signs you posted are not at eye level. So I think that someone would have to really kind of, look upwards and, to be able to, see it. And from what I understand, one of the other tenants, the QRC code that's on that extermination sheet does not work. Now, for me, it worked. So, I don't know if it's just if it's just the building, but whatever the case is, I mean, there has been a lot of progress made. And I think the one thing is that the extermination services, it's been very hard to schedule that. That's from what I hear from other tenants. And one other major issue is the hot water and the heat. So in 340, our heat and hot water went out Saturday and got fixed, and you were very responsive. Within 3 hours, it got turned back on. And then Sunday, it went out again. So, while we haven't had any outages since the last weekend in October, I know that other buildings have been reporting it. So I think that's something that, particularly given how cold it is, this winter, I think it's something that should be prioritized. But of course, as you know, rats, I mean, I see rats that they're just bold and running across the sidewalk without any fear. So, if you really get aggressive with the basement and the trash, I think that is, really causing a lot of the rat issues. But beyond that, I noticed, and I commend you for all of the work you and your team have done in the past month and a half. And going forward, I think, what I would like is just to have more open communication and more often communication, right? And one thing I would like to suggest is for the maintenance tickets, I think that if your team could reach out to the individual who opened the ticket, whether by phone or email. I know I've gotten, a notification on the app to confirm that's been closed before you do that, because I know that is a source of friction there.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question.
Yeah, Tal, thank you for sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, Tal, I appreciate the comments, and I'm happy that you're seeing the progress made. I mean, that's the point of, we want to be able to show that. I apologize if everyone can hear a baby in the background. That's my newborn, but I would say that we'll definitely, with the extermination, JB Pest, who is our vendor for that, we are actually going to, in addition to doing after hours service, we are also going to be sending out a link via email. So it's not just QR code that you scan in the lobby. It's actually an email that you receive, and then you can click on the link and then schedule the service that way. So I think that's probably just a little bit easier than physically being there, and someone can be at work and say, oh yeah, I'd like to have service, and schedule it that way. Regarding the issue on scheduling, maybe if we can speak about that separately in terms, or if we can email separately, I'd like to understand what that is a little bit more so that we can relay that to the vendor in terms of maybe some of those issues that some of the other tenants have experienced. But I will say that for the basements, JB Pest is going through all the basements, have been going through the basements to do very, very aggressive work on the rodents. The trash pickup, which I referenced earlier, I think will also help a lot in that regard. Unfortunately, we can't control the rats outside of the building, but we can certainly do what we can inside to make sure that that's taken care of. And I think hopefully what we'll also send, and I think with this after hours service with extermination, my hope is that other tenants or tenants that usually do not get service do get service, because I think that has actually a larger effect and a positive effect on the overall pests within the building. So I think that will be a positive. And then, well, I guess I'd like to hear the other tenants' comments as well, but we will definitely follow up on, our next meeting, Tao, and we'll continue to do that. So you have my commitment there.
Just a quick question, Tao. The rats you're seeing inside the building, on the street only, and do you know where you see them the most? Are you seeing them in any of the tree pits at all?
I'm seeing them in the basement, so where the garbage chutes are. So it's right in front of the building, but it's part of the building. And I have seen some running around in the backyards from one building to the next. Some of the other tenants said they've seen it in the basements. Now I don't have access to our basement, so I cannot confirm that. But I have heard. I guess there are mice or something in the hall. In the walls.
So Christian, just to know, if anywhere on the property you have rat burrows, there's a specific device you can use, which is actually a carbon dioxide generator down the burrows, and it suffocates the rats in the burrows. And I have direct experience with this, unfortunately, in a number of our open spaces. So just want you to know that's another extermination device you can use, and it does really do it.
Well, I will absolutely make sure that JB Pest is using that if they're not already. But they know that it's a huge priority for us, and they're coming out on a weekly basis to do this. So I'll make sure that that's part of their arsenal, so to speak.
Sure. Kimberly.
Yeah, good afternoon. Well, my name is Kimberly, and I have been tenant 328 West 498 Street since 2021. And in our time living here with my husband and I, we have dealt with very poor conditions, lack of repairs, and lack of urgency repairs that hasn't been fixed yet. Last month I shared and months ago and years ago, I have shared unnecessary repairs that had to be done. However, that is not true in the sense that they haven't fixed all the things that they say they have fixed. When they come here, in fact, the mold, they just put a paint, but it actually 2 months ago, it came out a month ago. So the repairs are not being done in a good quality, I would say. Another issue is the broken door. One time it was actually, I will use this word silly, but they say, can we just take the locks out so when they come and inspect, they can see that everything is good, and then we will put it back again? And I was like, absolutely no, we are not doing that. They have to know that you are not doing your job. So my door remains kind of broken, and the secures are of my apartment. Yeah, of my apartment. Yeah, like when you come into the door, into the apartment. Also the washing machine, I have submit tickets saying that the washing machine is not working properly, and I would like that to be replaced. But again, I haven't heard anything from them. Also I will agree and support Tao when they say that they close tickets without asking us or without giving us an explanation on why they are closing the tickets. They also, I will say that they have been offering more extermination services. However, I haven't had extermination services for 2 months now. And it takes several phone calls to get an extermination appointment. That's why I haven't even had the time to do it, because I'm being very busy, honestly. And a week ago, my husband and I, we couldn't sleep because the rats were scratching the walls. They woke me up at 3 a.m. and we literally hear the rats inside of the walls, like scratching the walls, trying to get into the laundry. And it was like for an hour until I guess the rat just give up, or it was full of eating the wall. I know it sounds horrible, but that's how wild it gets here. And also 3 weeks ago, they did a very poor replacement with the ceiling, because I had a video where through the lamp of my bathroom of the ceiling, the water was coming literally like a fountain. And then I called the superintendent. I was in an event. My husband was here. He sent me the video, and it was electricity over there. Like it literally was in the light. Like the water was coming from the ceiling through the lights. And I was like, turn off the lights, because that's electricity, water. Like we don't want anything happen. And I called the superintendent, and they told me that it was my and my husband's responsibility to knock the upstairs neighbor's door and ask them to turn off the water, which I didn't understand, because I was like, and then they were also like, they speak like, you just knock the door, they should speak Spanish. It was just like, it was a nonsense conversation. Like a couple of minutes ago, like 10-15 minutes ago, the water stopped, but it was very wild too, the scene. They came, I think they came last week, and we talked about that, and they didn't do anything. Like I haven't heard any update about why, like an explanation of why that was happening, and if there was something fixed in the floor above us. And I also will say that I support that the intercom has been fixed. However, my phone is connected to every single unit for some reason, so I get all the calls, even though they are not getting into, like, the packages coming from 328 building, I get the calls. So I have to turn my phone to not disturb, so I don't get all the calls through the day.
So Kimberly, that's something they could fix easily. That's a configuration problem with your electronic intercom system. So Christian, that's plain old just how it's set up in software. And
Okay.
that happens sometimes when it's not administered. So Kimberly, let me ask you though, in general, like town noticed, like town remarked, there has been some work going on, not all over the place, but at least there's open communication and some tickets or repairs have happened. So I want to ask you, Christian, how many open repair tickets do you have today in this group of buildings?
I would have to go into my system. I'm happy to send that to you guys afterwards and show you.
Yeah, it's 53.
Huh?
And I get
No, today.
Today.
That's maybe
Violations.
that violation. I'm talking, there's two separate pieces happening here. One is if someone makes a complaint. So Christian, if you could just do that, like send us, like, I would say, as we're trying to monitor this on a monthly basis, open tickets closed, tickets requested, tickets closed, tickets open.
John, what department number is this? Because I want to see it on the spreadsheet. That is 328 what?
Kimberly, what unit are you in?
Yeah. I mean, can you just repeat the question?
What
Your
building
unit
and
number,
apartment?
Kimberly.
Oh, 1FE.
And also, could I just interject briefly?
328?
Yes,
Okay.
328,
According
1F.
to this, it's all complete.
Right, so here we have a disconnect, and I'm not saying that it's perfection at all, because we're moving ahead. But if your spreadsheet shows that all the tickets are closed and every item is settled in 328, 1FE, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the tenant says they're not, we want to make sure that you're taking your time to comb through this.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna ask again the following, you met on November 2nd, it's December 4th.
Okay.
5th, December 4th, it would be helpful if a week after that meeting or 2 weeks, you issue a report, not right before our meeting. Our meeting should not be the driver sort of thing that get information together. I just want to know, whatever you can do to move it along in a speedier fashion.
But in terms of just timing though, if we're given a sheet by Liana, which we'll continue to receive, turnaround time for everything that's on that sheet within a week is not, I agree that.
Christian, not for a moment does anyone expect you get a list of repairs, you're gonna turn it over in a week, but can you give a report within a 2-week period to the tenants so they see the progress, and then another report in the 2-week period? You have to demonstrate, there's no way you're gonna do everything in this building in a short period of time and all the complaints. That's just obvious, right? But giving progress helps everyone understand that you're making an effort and we're moving through a process.
So, can I
So,
just ask
if
for
I may-
clarification?
I'd like to add one thing. I do have a spreadsheet where I created a pivot chart of all the issues from that list that you sent us 2 days ago, Christian. And according to my pivot chart, it shows that 1FE has 13 tickets and they're all complete.
Right.
Katie?
So I feel like we may all be using a slightly different terminology. Because it sounds like the system in place right now is that if a ticket is opened, it's addressed, and then it's closed. And it sounds like maybe there's a text or a message that goes to somebody saying the ticket is closed. And it sounds like maybe some of the residents are saying, we'd love to not just get a text that it's closed, we'd love to get a phone call. It sounds like, Joe, you're saying they shouldn't just get a text, that they should actually get a list of all of the items.
Well, there's 2 different things. There's the list that's compiled by HCC coming from all the tenants.
Right,
And that's a tracking sheet that HCC is doing.
right,
And after you have a meeting within a week or 2 weeks,
right,
issue a report saying, on this tracking sheet, we've knocked these 12 items off.
right,
And then there's 40 more to go, whatever it is, right?
right,
And the other thing I will say, the tracking system that I'm familiar with using is the tenant has to sign off on something. They get a picture that the work's done, and then the tenant virtually or in person signs off and agrees. Otherwise,
So you're
I
recommending
can't,
to switch to that system.
I can't close a work order unless the tenant has signed off.
Okay.
And I think you have a little bit of a disconnect that they're making efforts here and trying to get organized on this. But in her apartment, there's 13 closed tickets, but in fact there aren't.
Well, except that she said earlier, if I understand this correctly, that she said that she's been super busy and that she hasn't been able to, she hasn't had the time to call in.
No, that was for only for
For the extermination.
only for extermination, nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, I just want to make clear, like, I have noticed that the management has been putting more effort into fixing these problems because they have come into my apartment and I have seen they are really working hard. However, it's just frustrating to see that they come to fix things, but then the month after is again, like the fountain coming through the ceiling. It was wild. And they came like 2 weeks ago before that happened. So I'm just putting out there, like, if we are receiving the technicians or the people that are prepared for repair those things. I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying, but sometimes I feel like it's just like random people coming and just trying to do their best. I'm not saying it's that. I like the idea that like, I don't remember your name, but saying like the tenants can sign, like, actually that it was fixed in that date and we all are in the same page, and then you can close the tickets. Again, I have seen progress, but it's just like there are some things like rats scratching to the walls 2-3 a.m. It's a lot. So yeah.
I think we really appreciate that the owner and HCC and the tenants are working together.
Yeah.
Finally,
Yeah.
that's a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah,
We know it's gonna be a slog, right? But having that verification, Christian, also protects you as an owner, that a ticket's been put in, it's done, and there's no question that it's open.
yeah, but.
Yeah, sorry, I'm taking that to note. I'll definitely speak on my side about, if a repair is done there, that there's some sort of sign off from the tenant so that there's no discrepancy, because our system works a certain way and it's, maybe if it's done, but then it's not done to your satisfaction, we don't want to, then it's really not done. So, and it needs to be signed off on.
And it helps
but
you
I'll-
going forward in court proceedings and violations, because people will say something's not done, but it's signed off and you know it's done. There's no question.
Just
Rachel.
follow up, sorry. So I wanted to make sure, because my understanding was that the letter that we approved last month just was mailed today. And I wanted to find
No.
out,
It was?
or I don't know, it was, who's in your office who emailed me and asked for the, Anyway,
yeah,
question.
well, Nellie would know. Nellie, our letter was not mailed in a timely fashion?
wasn't that what happened today?
I don't
No, it's not. Was this a different letter? Yes. Oh, different letter.
Okay,
Sorry,
never
my
mind.
bad. My bad,
Never to tell.
different letter.
Rachel and then Katie.
Could I get some clarification on who's actually doing the work? Because the idea of communicating better on issues being more exposed is great, but if the quality of it is not sufficient, because what I'm hearing is, I think maybe there's a bit of a rush to tick things off, right? I would be curious to know who's doing the work, and I don't know if this might be Christian or someone else, but it sounds like maybe there also has to be communication to the staff, like the superintendent who told where is the lady, Kimberly,
Kimberly.
to go upstairs to tell the neighbor. That just does not sound appropriate.
No.
So is there a way to also communicate to the staff or the contractors, whoever doing the work, to do this in an earnest way and communicate honestly, if like, oh, you know, the door, we cannot fix it today. We'll keep the ticket open for later. We just cannot right now because we're going through like several buildings and hundreds of issues.
So one thing that I appreciate and understand the question, one thing that we haven't mentioned yet, but during our meeting that Liana and myself had, there's individuals from our side that are also there, the property manager and the regional manager. They're hearing this directly. So they fully well know that, you know, in our next meetings, they'll continue to join, that what needs to be, you know, corrected by the team members that are at the building. It's not simply me just taking in information and it goes nowhere. There's other individuals on the team that you guys don't see here, but are in the background that are also within those meetings.
Okay, so since you promised to revisit the kind of frequency of those meetings, it would be great to get really those people who are putting hands on the issues to be a part of it to the extent that they can. So that they.
And to make sure the quality of the work.
Right, to ensure the work is like, the issues are actually being fixed and not just like, you know, mold being painted over. By not a temporary fix.
The managers whose responsibility to make sure that the maintenance individuals are doing the work appropriately are on those calls with
Managers are on the
Tal.
call. Okay.
And so, just for information, Christian and Kimberly, if that mold becomes a mold violation, painting over does not remove the violation. There must be a mold specialist, and it's a very specific certification that has to be given to HPD to win the violation for mold. You cannot say we did it. Katie?
I have a question regarding the cameras. Can you share some more information on where cameras are located in the buildings?
Yeah.
It's located in the Dropbox.
All I saw in there was a sign that said, "Smile, you're on camera."
No, and there's
No.
no, that's not it. Nellie received an email that has description of where those camera placements are.
So the problem is we have people in the Dropbox looking right now.
Not there.
And it's not there. So we'll ask Nellie to.
I don't know that we're a public meeting and we recorded. I don't know that we should actually be speaking in the public meeting where all these cameras are, because the cameras are to protect also the tenants. And since we had an issue with squatters, it may be best if we are not actually disclosing publicly where they all are.
I think that's prudent.
But Christian provided the information, and we'll follow up with Nellie to make sure the committee has it for their understanding.
Yep.
Questions now, JD.
Yeah, Christian has a question. As I recall from a prior meeting here, removing the squatters or getting them to leave was a process that had to go through the courts and would take years, something like that. But apparently we've been able to do it rather quickly. Could you tell us how you did that?
I'm sorry, if I'm not sure if I'm understanding. Did you say that we did it rather quickly?
It seems that way from the prior meeting that we had here, where my understanding is that it was very difficult to do because you have to go through the court system. But apparently you have done it, and I'd be interested to know how you did it expeditiously.
I wish it was expeditious in nature, but it's not, unfortunately. What happened was when we first were meeting, and I forget, Joe, when the first meeting was, but I think it was maybe in March.
Yeah.
Those squatters that we were referencing that were then evicted in, I think, summer or late summer, those were already in the court system for several years. It just so happened that after our meetings and after several years, the court actually evicted them.
Gotcha.
And I will also just note, probably the owner really got engaged with those court cases to make them happen. I work with landlord tenant attorneys. When you really work with them and you push them, things do move faster. That's the nature of the.
So my follow-up.
Thank you for doing that, Christian.
Yes, thank you. And Joe, so my follow-up is, what steps are taken to prevent anything like that happening again?
Well, that's an important question, and the answer to that is that we check the vacant units and we secure the vacant units daily. The way that what occurred previously, and I don't want to bore everyone with the details because we've gone through this a little bit, but those tenants some years ago, they broke in and they showed fake lease documents to the NYPD, and then they, at that point, for some reason, received tenant rights. But the whole reason that happened is because they broke into the unit. So we're securing the units and are checking the units and are continuing to check the units so that if, unfortunately, if it ever happens again, and I can't say there will never be an attempt again, but if someone does do it and they do successfully get into a unit, at least we will know very quickly, and then we can call the NYPD that day, and then we can also use the cameras to verify that they are not a tenant.
Your diligence and patience and focusing on this is making a difference. That's obvious, right? How many vacant apartments do you have currently today?
Approximately 20.
20. Are those vacant apartments regular rentals, or are they referrals, free referral sources for homeless individuals?
I would need to check, but I believe they're a mix. I can get the exact mix for you, though.
If you get us this information, because again, we want to advocate on the building's behalf, make sure we get referrals are individuals who can manage independent living and don't create issues in the building. This brings us to the next issue, which is social services that we talked about extensively at our last meeting. So have you done further investigation into that to seek a social service partner that can support people who are there, who are having trouble managing independent living in general?
We do not, we right now do not have a good source for that. But I would say that where we do receive referrals from, that agency has and provides those support services directly to the people that are being referred to us.
I need to know
So
that's a great statement, but it's not really what happens in the end of the day. And we need to, our concern here is to make sure that people are getting good support and it happens at the location. Referring agencies, once people are placed, 9 times out of 10 do not provide the level of ongoing support needed to make sure people are successful. So I think this is something that we can talk about this offline and come back and talk to the committee further about how we can figure out to help you get to the right kind of agency to actually provide services at this location, which was in our letter in detail. Okay. Are there any other, Liana, any other questions? Tal or Kimberly, any other questions for tonight?
Yeah.
We're good. I'm good. Thank you.
Good.
Tao, Kimberly are good. Yeah, I'll just reiterate that HEC is happy to be supporting Tao and Kimberly and their neighbors and working with New Amsterdam and Black Spruce. I will say, as a supporter and also an outsider of the tenant association, I was a little concerned to see the tickets and the issues that Kimberly mentioned that were said they've been completed and they've not been completed. So just looking forward to honest and open and conversation, communication, and dealing with you all in good faith moving forward. And looking forward to meeting with you next week.
Katie has a question?
When we did a walkthrough over the summer, I believe, there were a number of, first floor units that were illegally converted into duplexes.
Yes.
And you had said that that would be remedied. Where do we stand on that?
Those individuals are illegal right now, and we are actively working to resolve that. So it's probably all I can say on that.
Got it. So I think we moved this process ahead a bit. We got some communication established. There is some more diligence doing in terms of getting repairs done. There's some communication issues still going on, and certainly follow-up. We identified the issue with tickets, we identified the issue with social services. We're gonna get back response on how many vacant apartments and what flavor they are. I specifically did not bring up violations tonight, because I think you need more time, but we'd like to get, when we meet again, how many outstanding violations, what's been cured, how it's proceeding ahead, because I believe we're still in a very high number of violations on this building, right?
Actually, I do have one more question.
Okay, one sec, yeah. Maria?
Well, I was gonna say, I think we should ask about violations. I mean, really what we're looking at is progress, and I think as long as we see a little bit of progress, that's good. So I think we do need that.
Well, can you give us just a brief idea overall number of violations?
Yeah.
Current, how many have been cleared up? And then go to Kate.
We've cleared using the date of October 1st. Well, I forgot when our last meeting was actually.
It was
in October, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So using that day as an example, we've cleared 129 violations. New violations appear, but we're actively clearing those. We are, and I think Joe, you would probably appreciate this, and others who are aware of this process. We do have a number of dismissal requests that have been ordered and are waiting for the city to proceed on those. We've made the repairs on those violations, and as soon as we get those dismissal requests actually into the building and HPD can verify them, those violations will start to fall off.
How many open violations do you have today, irrespective of the dismissal request pending? Just a number. And you said you cleared 129. How many are open today? It's going to be a large number, but I just want to understand it. That's all.
Yeah.
I believe it's just over 400.
Right. So that's extraordinary. You've got rid of 129. You've matured some more dismissal requests pending. But this is what we really want to see progress in: the physical repairs, some of which never rise to the violation status, and then the clearing of the violations.
But they were over 600 when they came to us the first time.
Right.
So this is a lot.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, this is all progress. It's just that 600 is extra extraordinary. 400 is very extraordinary. So
well, I would also mention just to keep in mind on this, because I do think it's important. We do have a high concentration of violations in certain units. We have and are successfully, through legal and agreements, are having some of those tenants vacate so that we can finally get access. And that is going to be a big driver.
A lot of violations at once, right?
Yes. Either through court access or they're vacating, or what, that will be a big factor in removing a lot of these old violations. For example, also in building 336, we have 28 violations in 2 FW, which we've been trying to get access for a very long time. We finally got access, and that's going to be cleared on the next the dismissal request. That's 28 violations in 1 unit. That drops the number, and if you start to add 10 more units of that same nature, it goes down pretty quickly.
All we know is that as we dog these things month to month, they get taken care of. So that's our role here. So I think we'll move on from this here. Okay, yes.
So, Christian, I know that there's some debate that it's your understanding that the people who it's your understanding that some people are getting support services, maybe just not on site. You think they're getting them elsewhere? If you could find out or let us know what provider it is, and if you think they are getting, confirm that you think that they're getting services offsite. And I know that, I now remember which letter it was that went out today, it was the letter that we wrote to asking for the agency to redo the regulatory agreement.
Yes.
So that, because we know that right now there is no obligation. You don't have an obligation to have on-site, but we're encouraging you to have on-site. So anyway, if you can find out what services they are getting, because it's our impression that they may not be getting any.
I'll get
Right?
I'll get confirmation from those agencies on more detail as to what they're providing. I don't want to speak for them, but I'll have them provide that information and I'll present
Yeah,
that
exactly.
for next week.
And I guess my question, and the other buildings that you have you guys ever signed a regulatory agreement where you have provided on-site services?
Contracted to provide.
Yeah, have you ever had one of those?
To my knowledge, the other agreements that we've entered into have not met those requirements that require services to be on site.
All the new regulatory agreements that have scatter site homeless housing have that requirement. This is everyone. That's one of our problems.
Right, but I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I think we're gonna ask you to come back in January and get an update and have a brief, concise, because I think the more we have this public discussion, it's moving the process along. Thank you both very much. Thank you, Liana, Tal, and Kimberly, and Christian very much. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our next item, but first, I just want to give a quick update on Hudson Hotel. It was postponed for a very good reason. The tenants association, Goddard Riverside, the owners in possession, Parkview Financial, they're the ones who took the building back from the Smekey brothers. And CB4 have been in active discussions back and forth on how to get to an agreeable temporary and permanent relocation agreements in the building. And there was a meeting that was scheduled for December, end of November, it got postponed. Goddard was overwhelmed with, they have a limited number of attorneys and Goddard was called to do representation in court for Manhattan all of a sudden. So they could not do what they had to do and look at this relocation agreement. I would say we are one meeting away from a final version of the relocation agreement. And in working with Parkview Financial, the investor who now is the owner in possession, they have been flexible, thoughtful, and asking all the questions that were asked in this committee as to why these things have to be said or not said. And I think they have been such a different way of working on this. So it looks like it's going in a very good direction.
Can you tell us sort of, do you have a sense of where they're moving or what's happening?
Yes, no, moving meaning everyone in that building will move within the building.
Yeah.
Right? It's all internal relocations. And there are a couple of flavors of tenants. One, folks who don't want to move at all, just want to work within their apartments while they're there, right? And Parkview understood, there's going to be a cohort of tenants that just doesn't want older people, just want to stay where they are. And so they said they were willing to do that. The second group are people who are willing to move temporarily, but want to move back to their original unit or a unit in the same line somewhere in the building. And they're flexible to do that. And then there are some tenants who are trying to work out moving to larger size apartments because they have families and 2 SRO rooms, something like that. And Parkview said yes, and they have no problem. They also agreed to forgiving all the back rent back to when the illegal construction started. That Smekey said they could do, but they put it in writing saying they will do it. And that no one would pay rent until the new unit is delivered. That has gone a long way to having tenants understand that. Let's figure this out because it's really a difficult. Oh, and they've done something else. The lobby had been painted black by Smekey's. The entire, they painted it white and cream. So like you walk in not into a cave, and that was a simple request that the tenants made during the course of this, and they did it within a week. Just that alone of like asking for something, Then the last piece is very important. They restored bottled water because remember the water can't be drunk in this building because of the bad pipes. And in the last weeks of Smekey's ownership, they stopped giving people water. So seniors were hauling water to wash in and to drink. So, and a managing agent is installed on the premises. So there's been a whole bunch of things that just have evidence that they're trying to work with people. And that helps you get to the difficult process of the renovation, relocation, temporary. So.
Imagine you can learn something here.
We should work on
Exactly. You never knew.
What?
I was just making a joke, we should have more bondholders take over more property.
But Brian, truly, it's sort of like a breath of fresh air, like they're very down to earth and trying to figure it out like that, that's their goal. They've also brought in Taconic Investments as an advisor, has done a lot of luxury and affordable housing in our district, so like there's a bunch of people who actually have done this work before that are all trying to work together. So we can go now to our presentation on Intro 948, and it's specifically about Airbnb and changes. And we had Tom Taylor introduce yourself, but also where you're from and how you're involved in this, so we have an idea. And come and sit up here closer.
I'm not busy.
No, because we have a
Camera.
phone, the owl, and.
We have a camera.
We'll hear you better online.
Yeah, you can sit.
Been a long day. I've settled. Betty Davis said. Crawl in and for sissies.
And you are?
My name is Tom Taylor. Do you guys need background on
Yes.
illegal hotels?
Yes.
Um,
And who you are too, and why you're here representing.
Okay, I'm with the Coalition Against Illegal Hotels. We're a group that you were talking about, HCC, that Westside Neighborhood started in 2004 to fight illegal hotels. As you may or may not know, Hell's Kitchen was ground zero for illegal hotels back in the turn of the century. Because we have Times Square and we have the Theater District and we have St. Pat's and we have Rockefeller Center. So we at the Westside Neighborhood Alliance back in 2004 started getting calls from folks in our lovely 5-story walk-ups saying, how come I have groups of 25 Italian tourists in my building every weekend? And we scratched our heads and said, gee, gosh, I don't know. Why do you? And we slowly found out that they did because of a thing called the internet, which some of you might be familiar with right now. That the internet provided access for people to rent apartments to tourists because they could reach them across the ocean, across continents, across the US. So we got involved in this. I personally got involved in it because in my building, a landlord moved in a gentleman to open a illegal hotel. I complained, I put in violations. He sent a registered sex offender to threaten my then 9-year-old. I had him arrested, he absconded. But it was one of those things, you know, that happened on September 23rd, 2004, it kind of changed my life. In terms of going, there's so much money involved in this that people are willing to do pretty much anything, including threatening children. But that's just like fair game because I'm making a big cut on this. So we've been involved in fighting this for a really long time, and we're going to be fighting it for the rest of my life, as far as I can tell. In 2021, with the help of God bless him, Mike McKee, who we had a memorial for last night and who just left us recently, and who we all sort of desperately miss right at the moment. In 2021, this Westside Neighborhood Alliance Illegal Hotel Committee, we wrote, sponsored, and passed a bill in council, Intro 2309, which was passed on December 9, 2021, and then became local law 18, which many of you may have heard of local law 18. We specifically wrote this law to be able to withstand legal challenges because we knew that we were going to be sued. So we very much wrote our law based on what Santa Monica had done because they had successfully survived 3 court cases for their law. And basically what we realized is in New York City, you as a primary tenant You may have roomers, boarders or lodgers for less than 30 days. And they may pay you to room and board and lodge in your unit as long as you're on site for less than 30 days. That's allowed in the multiple dwelling law for Class A apartments. It's also allowed in the housing maintenance code for 1 and 2 bedroom
Since 1929.
Sorry?
Since 1929.
Multiple dwelling law is 1929, the housing maintenance code is 1961.
Right.
So this has been going on for a long time. So when we wrote our law, we realized that what we had to do was we had to incorporate all existing laws into the bill that we wrote, because our bill changed no existing laws. All our bill did was said, if you're going to have short-term rentals, that's a business, which is fine. But what business in New York City, other than drugs and prostitution, isn't registered and taxed? None that I know. So we put in the bill that you had to register with the city, which is done through the mayor's office of special enforcement, because they're the ones who have the expertise on this. You had to agree to comply with all existing laws, state and city. That's all the bill did, that's all the bill does. So the upshot of it was, we did get sued by Airbnb. They also funded a bunch of tenants to put in a suit as well. We, the Coalition Against Illegal Hotels, put up $10,000 and did an amicus brief, because we felt we had the expertise that the city may or may not have had. The city, I have to tell you, did a brilliant job of defending this law. I was quite stunned by it. The young woman who was the city attorney wrote papers which were just like, oh my God, this is a really, really smart person. And the judge on August 8th of 2023 completely dismissed Airbnb's case. Didn't give them anything, nothing. She had no question. Judge Bluth, there was no questions were left open, so there was nothing for them to appeal. They couldn't come back and say, well, the judge was wishy-washy on this. The judge was just like, no, the city has a right to regulate business within its own jurisdiction, and this is a business, and therefore the city has a right to do that. And no laws have been changed. These are all laws which have existed for years on the books. So in September of after that judgment in September of 2023, the OSC was finally able to actually begin to enforce the law and require people to register with the city to have short-term rentals.
Up the law was held in abeyance until the court case completed.
Yes, there was an injunction. So what happened, the upshot of that is between September of 2023 and January of 2024, Airbnb's stock of advertised apartments on their website went from over 60,000 to 4,000.
In New York City.
Yes, 4,000 legal short-term rentals. Because again, it's legal for you to do this. If you have an extra room, if you don't have an extra room, if you have a couch, you can rent that out to tourists if that's what you care to do. So again, the law had to accommodate that fact that state was. So the law's been wildly successful. It's done exactly what it was supposed to have done in the city, which is, kind of stunning. It's shocking, and frankly, this law was written, sponsored, and passed by 4 people with no money. We didn't spend a dime on passing this bill. I wrote the first draft, and then of course it has to go to the city, and then you get involved in negotiations and long story about everything that got negotiated with it, but it turned out to be a good law. So of course that meant that our friends at Airbnb, which now I believe is $100 billion corporation, they don't like our law for a couple of reasons. One, they no longer make money in New York City. Because they were making money hand over fist with illegal hotels in New York City. And when the city actually said to them, there were meetings, there was a meeting on October 31st, 2015, where Jamani Williams said to the Airbnb representatives, Chris Lehane, will you comply with New York City law? And he essentially went, no, why should we? You can't enforce your own laws, so we're just gonna do what we're gonna do. Which was like, oh, good, okay, this is a very responsible, this is a concerned, community-based corporation. So that was what let us know that at that point in time, there was nothing for us to do but to make a law. The other reason that Airbnb doesn't like our law, besides they don't make money in New York City anymore, is that our law is the best in the world right now. And
No pride there.
no, we get calls from cities throughout the country and throughout the world saying to us, how did you do this? How did you pass a law that Airbnb couldn't sue you for? Now, one thing is, in New York City, we have a lot of money here. So, being sued by corporations is no big deal. There's a whole, the city has a whole legal department. But, if you're a municipality of 150,000, 250,000, 500,000, and Airbnb comes after you, sue you, you're talking about a tenth of your budget going down the drain, defending yourself in federal court. This is really, really, frightening for any small municipality. So we talk to these people all the time. And this is, again, one of the reasons why AIR really hates this bill, is because it works, it's effective, and other people are trying to model their regulations on short-term rentals. The country is in a housing crisis. It's not us. We are, but the whole country is in a housing crisis. And as I'm sure you all understand, renting short-term to tourists makes you a whole lot more money than renting long-term to New Yorkers. You're talking about, making $200, $300, $400 a night in a unit, in a 5-story walk-up in Hell's Kitchen. So over a weekend, you're talking about making $100,000. So you've just made yourself $8,000 for an apartment, which you could maybe put on the open market for more at best, if you had nice amenities. And Verizon, with glass internet. There's been a couple of bills have been floated in the past year. Airbnb has gone to 1 and 2 family homeowners in the outer boroughs. And they've organized 2 groups, one called ROAR, which is ROHORA, something or other, residential homeowners for something, and New York City Homeowners Alliance. And they've funded these homeowners to write bills. And there's 2 of them right at the moment. The most damaging one was submitted to the council. I mean, we knew this was happening. It's not like we were unaware of it, but the most damaging one, which is 948, was submitted to council on October 24th. And then our good speaker, Adrian Adams, decided to give it a hearing and announce at the hearing that would be a hearing on November 3rd, the day before the election. It was announced there would be a hearing, and that hearing was held on November 20th, just before Thanksgiving. So we worked very, very hard to prepare for this hearing. The bill 948 does 3 things. One, it removes the requirement that the primary resident is on the premise when they are short-term rental. That requirement is the only regulation which stops residential units from becoming permanent short-term rentals. If the primary resident has to be on premise, then you can't have, in theory, I mean, again, what our law did was was our law stopped the honest people from doing illegal short-term rentals. The dishonest people are still doing it. OSC is still fighting them. I still make weekly reports on the illegal hotels that we find in those kitchens. Katie just pointed out a lovely one to me, a 408 West 36th Street. So a 722 10th Avenue, for instance. But that provision of the primary leaseholder having to be on premise, that is key to stopping units from becoming permanent short-term rentals. So they want to vacate that, not just for 1 and 2 family homes, but for apartments.
Multiple dwellings,
Sorry,
multiple dwellings.
multiple, yeah, throughout the city. So obviously they can't do that because the multiple dwelling law controls Class A apartments. So I don't even, this is just a flaw on the bill that is just going to make a huge, if it were to pass, it would just become this insane mess. Our belief is that Airbnb wrote it this way so that they could go to Albany and then say, see, New York City wants to allow Class A apartments to be rented as short-term rentals, so change the multiple dwelling law and allow this to happen. Somehow they don't know who Linda Rosenthal is, which, is baffles me because Linda hates these sons of bitches. She will never.
That's a technical term, right?
I'm sorry?
That's a technical term?
Yeah. Yes, actually, a funny story, when we first came up with the idea of regulating short-term rentals, we thought it should be a state law. We thought that would be a better way to go about it. And we took a meeting with Linda, this was in 2019, and sat down and said to Linda, so we want to set up a regulatory system, it is legal under multiple dwelling law, so we just want to make sure that people follow them. And I'm not even sure what happened, but by the time I got back out onto the sidewalk, I have had my head handed to me on a platter. She went off, that she would never do business with these people in any way, shape, or form, and that I would even suggest that something like that happened. I was obviously from a world that she did not understand. And so on the sidewalk, we went, oh, okay, well, maybe it could be a city law. Maybe we could go that direction. So that's the first thing that the 948 does, is it eliminates the requirement for the on-site.
And that's a very key provision.
Oh, that is. The second thing it does is it changes, the state multiple dwelling law allows you 4 roomers or boarders. The city housing maintenance code only allows 2. So in 948, they want to change it from 2 to 4 adults. But anyone under 18 years old is a child, and there's no limits on how many children under 18 years of age could be in a short-term rental in an apartment or a 1 or 2 family home. Which of course means a 17-year-old with a credit card can rent a short-term rental and bring 125 of their best friends over, and that would be legal in New York City. Which again, is just like, you have to be kidding. A friend of mine who's in Texas has been following how many shootings have happened at short-term rentals in the United States since May of 2019. She is up to having documented 550 shootings in short-term rentals in the United States. Most of these are from parties put on by teenagers. You might remember a very famous one back in 2019 in Orinda, California, where 5 kids were shot. But according to her statistics, we're talking about 7 shootings a month happening in short-term rentals since May of 2019. So they want to change the amount of people who can be there. The other thing they also want to do is they're concerned that their guests in their homes would go into private parts of their homes, like their office or their private bedroom. And therefore, they want to be able to put deadbolt locks onto their, what they designate as private area. Which means that, God forbid, if our firefighters ever had to go into a emergency situation, one of these units, in a smoke and fire situation, they're going to find interior doors deadbolted. And again, you might, remember when this happened, this was in 2015 in northern Manhattan, Black Sunday, where one firefighter was killed, two were maimed because they went into a rabbit warren and they had no idea what was going on. The fire flashed over, they jumped out windows. So these are the three provisions that they are pushing through 948. As I say, the housing committee had a meeting on November 20.
New York City Council Committee.
Yes, we worked very, very hard on this. And I don't know what the right word for this is, but in the committee meeting, we won. There are 7 committee members, there were only 2 votes to vote it out of committee. So when we walked away on that evening, Thursday, the 20th, we looked at each other and we went, good, okay, this can't get out of committee. So therefore, it's not going to go any further. Well, our good speaker, Adrienne Adams, the next day, on the 21st, she announced that she was going to move the bill forward despite the fact that the committee had not voted it out.
That's unusual.
Yeah, oh, it's wildly unusual. It's been done one other time that I've been there in the city. And I can't even explain to you exactly what the legal mechanism is which allows her to do this. I've had 3 different explanations given to me, and basically it all comes down to the fact that the speaker has vast powers, and she can use them at her discretion. I also can't tell you why the speaker is doing this. This is the end of her term. She is term limited, and she will be, as of December 31st, she'll no longer be elected nor be the speaker. There's a lot of speculation about why she might be doing this and why she's pushing this Airbnb bill, but I don't have any confirmation on it one way or the other. So again, we have been, we were fighting this of bringing the bill to a council vote. But yesterday, it was confirmed to us that yes, the speaker has in fact agended the bill to be heard by the housing committee once again. I spoke to Chairperson Sanchez's legislative assistant, Ben Ratner, yesterday. And he confirmed that it will be heard by the housing committee on December 18th at 11 o'clock in the morning. And if the housing committee does not vote it out, then the speaker will bring it to the floor for the last stated council meeting of the year on December 18th. Again, I can't explain to you.
So this is part of, we've had the Mayor Adams administration going out of business sale, some other items that we're dealing with. This is a new one for the council going out of business sale.
Yeah,
right.
Yes. So the situation, as I best understand it, and I'm really trying to get more information. I spoke to a gentleman who represents homeowners out in Queens this morning and was talking to him about it. It's a, we agree that homeowners who are in mortgage distress need help. No question. They should be helped to stay in their homes, and the council should find a way to help them. Making every residential unit in New York City into a short-term rental in order to help a very small number of people in mortgage distress, it is really not the way to do this. It's not a sensible thing in a housing crisis in New York City. But what we're up against right at the moment is a speaker who's bound and determined to put this up for a vote. Which means that the only option that we have is to stop it with 26 votes in the council. That's what we're up against. There are only 8 sponsors on this, 9 sponsors on this bill. So it's not heavily supported throughout the council, but it's very, very difficult to tell, you know, what council members, particularly in bedroom communities in the outer boroughs, are fighting. In fact, once when this fight got started and we were organizing, one of the things that Mike said to us in the Coalition Against Illegal Hotels.
Mike can keep when you're
Because we've been working on this since last January, because we knew this was coming. Mike said to those of us who had worked on local law 18, said, "You old white Manhattanites cannot be the face of this fight. This is happening in neighborhoods of color, in 1 or 2 bedroom families in the outer boroughs. So you need to sit down. You know, do everything that you can do, but." So we have been working very hard, and we've organized homeowners groups out in the outer boroughs, as well as tenant organizations and housing rights organizations in the outer boroughs. And they've really been carrying the weight on this, because those are the council members who need to be gotten to one way or the other.
Tom, thank you for like an excellent explanation of this whole, this history of how this thing happened, right? So first, let's go to questions from our members regarding the implications of this bill. And starting with the.
Well, more directly, Tom, what can we be doing?
Well, here's my question for you guys, and I don't, you know, I don't know, if my question is even, so, I understand, that there is a citywide, borough board, that involves all of the community boards.
Yes, there are a Manhattan Borough Board.
But I understand it's also, with all the boroughs.
Each borough has a borough board.
And then our chair goes to a borough board meeting with.
Correct. It's not a citywide thing, it's there's 5 boroughs.
And so is there an intra communication network between boards? The boards?
Well, not directly. So the way it works is each borough president convenes a borough board, and the borough board will be all the chairs or a representative of the board who meets on a monthly basis to provide updates, to think about things that are impacting that entire borough, as well as to get some presentation on something that may be impacting the borough. In that particular, if you're thinking about going at a level where you can speak to boards across boroughs, you would need to reach out to each borough president. So the borough president is the key to having that conversation. Yet we are now going into the second week of December, and each of those boroughs may already be having their meetings this past week or this coming week. There's not a lot of time.
So
Going to the borough board, going to the borough president is probably most direct opportunity.
Manhattan is December 18th, which is the last stated day of council, so questionable.
Okay, so that might not, so I thought was if there was sort of an intra-board communication network, and if there was a way, I mean, I was thinking of the executive board. I know bringing it to the full board right at the moment to say, you know, we MCB4 think this is a really bad idea to pass in the hills. I think that ship is sailed. So it would have to happen in some other more.
But because there's a timing, issue, we can pass a letter to this committee, and then it goes out and gets ratified at full board in January. Because there really is a timing issue.
So can that happen just through our committee? Because exact isn't until the 22nd.
Yeah.
We've done this before, and it goes to SEC also, so it's.
The other opportunity is not to have a committee letter. We can have a committee letter additionally where it's ratified at exec, but we also could ask for an administrative letter that indicates, based on the fact that we as a board are on record in terms of our point of view and our policy around or thoughts around illegal hotels and short-term rentals. And we can reference that and to say that we're very concerned about that and state our reasons, and that can be an administrative letter which comes out of the office.
The board office. Brian?
Yeah, I'm looking for the numbers that the New York Fed publishes it, but I think that mortgage delinquencies in the Bronx and in Brooklyn and Queens are actually pretty high.
Yeah.
Like, so this we hear about this part of Manhattan, but like, this is something that if I were a homeowner in an outer borough, I would care very deeply about it. That keeps me in the home.
Well, this has been the, one of their arguments, one of the homeowners' arguments who were involved in this is that, local law 18 overreached. And this is something that we've heard from a lot of people, and a lot of people have said, I was happily renting the second unit of my two-family home as a short-term rental, and that was helping me pay for my mortgage. Again, local law 18 didn't change any laws, so they might have happily been doing that and making money to help them pay for their mortgage, but it was in fact illegal. It is still illegal. 1 and 2 family homes represent 30% of New York City's housing stock, and 2 family homes represent 15% of New York City's rental stock. So we're talking about a significant amount of housing, not a minuscule amount of housing. So yes, there is a real mortgage problem going on. But again, the question is, do you solve that mortgage problem by allowing every residential unit in New York City to be permanently rented as a short-term rental? The way their bill is written, a homeowner can go to OSE, register their home to be used for short-term rental, and then just happen to be traveling 365 days out of the year. So the permanent occupant never actually has to occupy a unit, period. They're only going to be a permanent occupant. So this means that whenever a house in an outer borough goes up for sale, a private equity company can pay a lot more money than a New York City family can.
Because the return from the short-term rental is much greater than a regular rental apartment.
Absolutely. So by saying to outer borough, in order to pay your mortgage, we're going to allow every 1 and 2 family home in New York City to be a permanent short-term rental 365 days out of the year. Over a period of time, you're going to turn these neighborhoods into a ghost town.
But couldn't someone today in a 1 or 2 family home in mortgage distress rent out?
Oh, absolutely.
As long as they're there.
As long as they're there.
When they're there.
And
registered.
What they can't do is permanently rent their second unit as a short-term rental, which many of these homeowners have been doing. And many of these homeowners that I've spoken to have just admitted straight up that they bought their home with the idea that they could short-term rent their second unit because it would make so much more money for them.
Those probably not the ones in mortgage distress.
So they're living in the single family home and then they're renting out the.
No, it's a 2 family, they're living in 1 unit and renting out the other.
Because they're there, they're saying they're there.
Yeah, they're saying, I'm in my unit, so I can rent out my second unit. And for the people who, and again, I've spoken to several people who just said, I bought my home based on the fact that I could short-term rent my second unit. So essentially what the people are saying is, we went into business with Airbnb to be able to buy our home. So Airbnb is our mortgage guarantor. And that's how we're able to afford to pay for this. And I personally think this is a really bad homeowner model. Next time there's a God forbid, a COVID, or a severe tourist a downturn, then these people are going to be in mortgage distress too, because they've essentially bought their home, built on sand, depending on this outside source of income. So I agree, people are in mortgage distress.
The second quarter year-on-year rise in first time portfolio bonds, 11%, the third quarter was 16%, so it's increasing. So I don't want to say like, it seems like maybe this bill would be more specific. I've seen some bills from Albany, like
More tailored,
just target Penn South for something, but like, I think it's a very, for me, if we decide to write a letter, whatever, difficult letter to say like, hey, you in the outer boroughs, I'm sorry, you cannot short-term rent that units, it's for you. Sorry about your mortgage, sorry, sorry how your equity is gone, that's very difficult for me. So,
question.
Wait 1 second, first Liam.
Yeah, I also want to emphasize, like,
And JD.
if this is for people to short-term rent what is their primary residence, the place that they stay in 50% plus 1 day, even when they're not there. And I would also point out, because we're talking about this originating in the outer boroughs, the current number of people who are, and one stat I want to highlight is that for Black and Hispanic homeowners, the delinquency rate right now on mortgages is 15%, which is a huge number for a population that is already far below the homeownership rates in the rest of the city. So that's why it's originating in the outer boroughs. The delinquency rates have shot up incredibly high, more than doubled since the pandemic, since 2019, when we're talking about this happening. And so there is a real legitimate groundswell of support for this that is because homeowners need affordability relief. And again, this is not a perfect bill, but it does address some of the things that would keep us from ending up in a situation like we were in here a couple of years ago in Hell's Kitchen, and that is the requirement mainly that this be your permanent residence, your primary residence on your farm.
No, it takes it out.
No.
No, it requires it be your primary residence.
You don't have to be there when we're.
Right,
But you must live there,
okay,
you must live there 183 days.
right, so.
There's no,
Take that up.
in this bill, there is no limitation.
It has to be your primary residence.
It has to be, it for the permanent occupant is the language in the bill. It doesn't require primary residence, it requires the permanent occupant. This is the language that they.
That's not my understanding.
Sorry.
I just differ on the.
No, I don't want us to differ. A bill is a bill, language is language.
Yeah, we should.
So if you can look at it, are you ready? But I want to note one thing for the public record as we're talking. The sponsor and the organizing of these outer borough homeowners is not coming from the homeowner, it's from Airbnb. And and there's a real issue, and we have to manage this through. We want to make sure we protect people, right? 100% and give people options. But a large, by the way, it's not 100 billion, it's 78 billion companies worth today, just a few dollars less. These folks have specifically chosen a group. So folks like us sitting in this room would say, how do we protect these folks? Always remember, when a large company is putting somebody else in front, it's not about those people's interests, it's about their interests. So our goal is, like Brian says, how do you balance and slice and dice this to make it more specific, right? JD?
Yeah, I think that's I have two questions to Tom. First of all, Tom Taylor.
Yes, sir.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Two questions. Is there, in your opinion, would there be a way to tailor the bill to satisfy those homeowners in the outer boroughs and protect us in Hell's Kitchen, Chelsea, New York? Second question, any idea how our elected council member feels about this? Or how Julie Mann may feel, in your opinion, if she becomes
Speaker.
Julie is against the bill.
okay?
That's the rush.
Oh, no, that's the rush, and our mayor-elect is against the bill.
Okay.
Both of those things, so, they both stated those publicly.
Eric, question, is there, in your opinion, a way? I don't care about the outer
No,
borough.
but where is Eric? Will you get that question answered?
Oh, yeah.
Eric has also stated to me that he's a no on the thing.
Oh, yeah. Is it, in your opinion, would there be a way to tweak the bill to satisfy both sides?
Well, with this particular bill, it'd be very difficult. As I said, the language used in this bill is permanent occupant.
Right, which language changes would you recommend? Let's try to answer these questions, that's it.
One, it would have to be, primary residence.
As Liam was talking about, so that.
Right, and you'd have to, be able to, be willing to prove primary residency, which is difficult. And it's also something which, people have, many people who've registered with OSE have really wildly complained about having to prove primary residency, because you're talking about having to provide your income taxes, to show that you're filing your income taxes at.
Here in New York City.
At this location. It's a high bar, but this bill removes that requirement because it specifically states permanent occupant. And
So there's a definition question that could help. If this were to happen, right, I'm not saying yes, but if it to happen, clarifying that definition would definitely be the mitigation.
there is no, in New York City law, there is no definition for permanent occupant. Primary residency.
It was, I think Katie or someone here first. Pete and then.
My concern was about primary residency, which is 6 months of the day, which is
183 days, right?
Yeah, and that's also a federal law, to establish residence in the state of New York for the tax laws. I don't seem to know, I just can't envision them certainly.
Well, they are, and that's what we're trying to address.
But, I think that's what we have to sit on, that issue, that's not occupant, primary residency. And that's what that covers.
Katie and Lord. No.
So I think we're in a bit of a bind here because of the timing issue. And I really appreciate the facts that you've shared with us this evening, but I think it's, we're not really in a position to have an opinion about a specific bill without us having had more time to actually, and frankly, and to have somebody giving us information with a different perspective. I think it'd be super helpful to hear from sort of both sides. But, I think that what would be really helpful, because apparently we've had a letter on this before.
We have a position already.
Exactly. So if we can, I don't know what the letter said before, but if we can say, hey, we've had this really, we've had you come speak to us, we understand that there's a bill, and we want to reiterate what we've raised before. Whatever we said in our last letter about the things that are important to us about boarding houses. And we just want to make sure that those concerns are addressed in this bill. I think because we had more time to think through very clearly our position before, and I don't think we have enough information or enough time for us all to go through this bill and be certain about what this is saying. So anyway, I would just suggest that we look back at whatever we said before and we reiterate that in connection with this bill.
Thank you. Let's go to Vera on the line. They said stand up.
And then, can we have Roberta first? We had
Oh,
her
I'm
hand
Go
up.
ahead. Yeah.
Okay, forgot it.
So this is a variation of what Katie was saying. I guess there are a couple of things. I mean, first, thank you, Tom, for the presentation. Very informative, very helpful. Would also encourage that if we are to, put something out that it reflect, I'm rereading a letter you wrote from 2015 to for the board on this particular topic. I'm like, oh, we could just do that. But I would also just note, we have 1107, and then we have a specific 1-2 family home bill, and then we have a more broad bill, and
The 948.
and then we have 948. So my other piece of this would be, we would probably want to err on commenting on issues that are more relevant to this district. And so, yes, we've had the conversation about foreclosure filings and affordability in other boroughs, but that might not be a place where we have the best expertise, and so perhaps
We do have
have
1 or
time.
2 family homes in our district.
We do.
which is why, as I mentioned, that, the old white Manhattanites
Yeah.
are not the face of this particular campaign.
I'm sorry, Katie Savage had her hand up.
Oh, yeah, but there's other comments.
I want to go to Vera and then Katie.
Okay.
Vera and then Katie, yeah. Vera, and then Laura.
Just very quickly, I actually sent my testimony for 948, and I actually wrote to Eric Bosher as well. The question I have for Tom and Joe and the committee, how much room do we have in terms of making recommendations as to what must be changed for this bill to move forward? Because there is some good in it, there's some bad in it, but there are ways in which you can fix the bad problems. I'll give you one example. I live in a condominium building in Chelsea. I have neighbors upstairs. It's a penthouse. 4 guys bought the whole apartment together, all because they want to actually rent on short-term basis. And they pretend to be renting it for 30 days, but they never do. My super knows that better than I do. But this is it's going to happen. People are going to find ways in which they would monetize because that's what they want to do. They actually bought the unit because they want the sort of short-term rental to pay for how it's going to actually eventually get bought. They are not interested in renting it on monthly basis because that doesn't pay them as much. So my question is, can we, I mean, similar to what Katie was saying and Roberta was saying, can we write a letter and would that be actually effective in terms of making recommendations to City Council to actually change 948?
So I'm actually shocked to hear that there are housers in this committee that are actually for this bill. The issue that people may have with their mortgages are very, very complicated. We have a systemic racial problem, which has kept people out of traditional financial services, which has created these other problems. Those are things that we can fix. This bill does not fix that problem. Okay, additionally, we are not thinking about how neighborhoods will most likely be destabilized. What Vera just described, imagine that you live in a building and you do not know who's going to be in your building at any point in time. That destabilizes not only your building, it can destabilize the block. So we have a public safety issue which happens. And for every single person who has been fighting every single letter, where we haven't perfectly said we wanted more and more and more and more housing, you don't recognize that what this opens the door to is that people who need rentals will not have rentals. Why? Because follow the money. It is much, much more lucrative to have short-term rentals. This is not solving a problem for people who are underwater on their mortgages. We can solve that through financial changes, financial literacy, but changing this actually creates more housing prices for our next generations. So I'm shocked to hear the position that I'm hearing from people who have been advocating for the last few years for more and more and more housing, because this is not housing.
And we'll go to Katie.
Okay, so I fully understand the concerns for the outer boroughs and for people who could utilize this to help them. And that is a citywide issue. Our board focuses on Hell's Kitchen in Chelsea. So while I appreciate that, you know, we don't want to go against those other areas, our responsibility is to support our community. And this is something that doesn't seem to have enough protections. Like, the bill defines what a family is, but permanent occupant is in there 10 times and there's no definition of what a permanent occupant is. So I think this is a situation where that we have found ourselves in numerous times before of the unintended consequences. When a bill is written and it seems like this is great, this is gonna be wonderful, it's gonna help people. Yeah, maybe there's some loopholes, but it'll be fine. The money always finds the loophole. The money always goes to that, and you know, they put the people up there as like the face of like, oh, woe is me. And that's actually really shitty of those companies to use people to their own advantage. And I mean, with all the fees that Airbnb charges and all of that, it's serving Airbnb more than it is serving these homeowners. And I think there could be a way to alleviate some of that, but this specific bill is not it, because it leaves too many loopholes for people to exploit it for other purposes, particularly in our community where, again, There's an entire building, a residential building on 36th Street between 9th and Dyer. I lived on that block, I actually looked in an apartment in that building. The entire building is now an illegal hotel. It's on booking.com. There's a sign on the outside telling them, WhatsApp me for entry. This is the Wi-Fi password. There's a box outside with all the different unit numbers and a keypad. So, you know, things like that are happening here, and we need to protect our community. So I would like to make a motion to write an administrative letter that reiterates our board's position on the short-term rentals and notes that looking at this legislation, you know, while the merits may be good, there are too many loopholes in this that would have a negative impact on our district. And we would urge our council member, speaker, you know, whoever we send it to, I think it should go to a broad range, that before any such bill is passed, that they find a way to close the loopholes so that the bill actually serves who it's intended to without harming others.
Second.
Matt was about to speak next, so you can speak. To this motion. No,
He has a motion.
No, I know there's a motion in play, but you can speak to the motion in front of you.
I appreciate the presentation, and I appreciate the point of view, but I come from, I'm a president of a co-op. This is a disaster, this bill for co-ops. I mean, we work hard at creating a community within a co-op, and this allows somebody to rent out one of their extra apartments, if they have one, on a weekly basis, utilize and be in the, you don't even know who they are. I mean, we interview people and you check people. So this is a disaster as far as I'm concerned for co-ops and condos. And there has to be another way to help the people that they're trying to help. But this really hurts, at least in the co-op condo area, where it hurts badly.
Just to clarify, co-ops and condos may still pass bylaws that would prohibit this, and I think it's a lot of them do. And just.
You can, but
Yes.
it's really hard to pass by. It's really hard to pass that. You need 75% of the shareholders to pass that. And if you have a huge amount of sublets and condos, you're not gonna pass that. Because they'll make a lot of money. They have extra apartments to make that money.
And I
So
live in it for a walk, so there's no protection for us. It would be devastating for rentals and much of those.
I just want to clarify.
Can I say something? Can I say something good?
Please.
We also seem to have just a couple of weeks before this goes to vote.
That's what I want to add.
And, you know, I think we should be talking about how do we stop it, get it to pause, so it could be discussed. And get it the right way, but it's gonna be, well, you can write all the letters you want, this thing is getting voted on in a couple of weeks. Like, how do we get Eric, how do we get him to talk to his other council members and get this paused?
Because again, I think the note is, if this were a bill that had no problems on moving ahead, there would not be a rush for a week and a half prior to the end of an administration to do something. And it should be a full public debate, period.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's gotta be paused.
Bill was introduced in February.
Huh?
The first of these bills was introduced in February.
The first hearing was in October. November 20th. And there's a reason for that. The politics said this speaker did not want to bring this to a committee for a hearing. When it was finally calendared, it's all about end of the year. I am just not ever naive that the timing.
I want to be not naive also about, like, I think we're portraying this as like a David versus Goliath, of Airbnb versus other people. It's Airbnb versus hotels. Okay, and there's a ton of money going against this bill too. Like tens of millions of dollars worth of lobbying and advertising against this bill. So this is not just Airbnb throwing their money in one place and nothing counts.
Do you mean we have strange bedfellows again in New York?
We
Happens all
do,
the time.
but I also.
Roberta says it's not gonna pass, we might as well move on with the motion.
Can I also make one point, which is that you cannot be you are definitionally not a permanent occupant of your extra apartment. So I just feel like that argument is.
Oh, dear Lord.
Facially.
We have,
I think Dolores.
So there's a motion, I'd like to make a slight amendment to the motion that in the administrative letter, whether or not it makes sense to send a letter or not, is not. I think that it's important on Katie's motion that we add that the timing of the committee, the moving out of the committee, as well as not allowing for any public review in a way that's responsible is irresponsible.
Right, and just note that, like,
Can we?
I guess, okay, that was an amendment.
Do you accept that? I accept it. I think it is.
Friendly amendment.
Yes.
Viren had a very good response. I think some of Viren's statements would be incorporated.
We have to be specific, we're voting on something.
Well, and also we have, like, so this is an administrative letter.
Yeah,
It
so
can't go too far.
We have previously said many things about illegal hotels and the harms that, you know, Airbnb and other.
The
platforms-
life and safety stuff, like locking doors, that freaks me out.
We keep that in here and express that concern in relation especially to 948 and send that as.
Attach our prior
letter. Hold on. Yes, and we can attach several prior letters.
Lisa, David?
I just want to mention, since this is more political than real in terms of why there's back and forth and they're trying to shove it through, is that it's helping the population that's seen as underserved and victimized. That we should emphasize in our concerns that this is reducing the availability of affordable rental access.
Good point.
I mean, we should hit the same level as what they're pressing.
So Doris, can I ask you to summarize?
I didn't make.
Oh, correct.
He has to summarize. Huh?
So to summarize, this administrative letter would reiterate the board's past position on
2015.
illegal, short-term rentals and all of that, or whatever, short-term rentals in general. No new commentary on, you know, the issues, but noting that this legislation, while has good intentions, we see a lot of loopholes that will go against what we've advocated for in the past.
Right.
And to also note that the timing of this legislation and the way it is being pushed forward is not in the best interest of all of New Yorkers and, you know, is questionable.
And full public
Yeah,
debate.
there needs, a change of this magnitude should have more, discussion in the broader public.
And it might have unintended consequences to the people that we're trying, that it purports to serve.
I mean, is that something we could put in a minute, cause that's like opining on the legislation, so I think. I think it's more just saying that.
Yeah.
After you, cut that, and then I'll make a motion with something else.
Okay, so you got the points. Everyone's heard those points, right? So we're voting on.
Yeah.
Now you have.
I said, well, it already been seconded.
I know, do you want to comment on this?
No, we're not commenting on this.
Okay, good. Right, so all those in favor of this motion with the bullets, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Two opposed, everyone wants to do.
Wait, hold on. Wait a minute.
Oh, sorry, Kevin.
I voted in the affirmative.
Affirmative, and Viren did it, not Charles, Viren's affirmative. So you can mark that.
I voted in the affirmative as well, Joe.
Right, but you can't vote because you didn't put the notice in advance.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I got it. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Yes, JP.
Did I hear over here Roberta say that the bill is not gonna pass?
I'm not here to speculate about the future of.
She's a wonderful state person, and she knows the insights, well, we don't know though.
I just threw her name out.
Maria Ferreira is about.
Any number of things can happen.
Going to Dolores, that's what I'm gonna say, yeah.
It was me who said it. I was just blaming.
Again, I do think that this requires more discussion, and what I would have wanted is to have some of the policy conversation, but I recognize that with the timing. It may be difficult for us to hash that out at the moment without also having some more broader
Understood.
point of views. But I do think it is important that we are on record as a committee and a board, not just administratively, to be noting what are the potential unintended consequences that go directly against our position in fighting for affordable housing.
Yeah.
Not only in our district, but across the city, because we have been positioned as.
Maybe we take that up in January as the broader subject, yes?
I wanted to, I know that we're actually in discussion, but Does it help at all to actually have something formally on record in January at all?
Well, here's the caveat with this. Is that if we are able to defeat this bill as it stands, which just to be clear, 948A was introduced into the council on October 24th. This amended bill came into the council on October 24th. So what we're actually talking about is a bill that came to the council on October 24th and was given a committee hearing on November 3rd.
Am I right that the
November
original
28th.
nine forty-eight was introduced?
The original 948 was actually introduced
June of 2024, but there was no hearing until,
No, but I'm not like making something.
No, no,
Like,
No.
I just want
But the politics were just like not gonna have it heard for a long time.
It's
So
gone-
flipped.
It's gone through many different, but its present, the present form, is only, just 6 weeks old.
With public consideration. for the
But
first
my caveat with this is, if we're able to, defeat this, at this point in time, and though I've spent, 21 years now working on this issue.
Can you just make it brief?
That, this issue will never be over in New York City.
It's gonna come back for more consideration.
So there's too much money. There is so much money. This is cash on the hook. The other thing that you might not understand with this is that a host for Airbnb does not issue a 1099 to a host until they get to a $20,000 a year threshold. And because Airbnb does not require government IDs, that means that I can rent an Airbnb for as Billy Bob. And when I get to $19,999, then I can become Bobby Bill and rent the same place and never get a 1099 and never pay taxes on the earnings that I have made for this. That's how Airbnb is structured, and that's how they work with their hosts on this. So the point of that is just that there's so much money in this. This issue is never going to go away for New York City.
So then that answers the question, let's take it up in full in
We'll take
January.
up full in January, talk about the policy implications. I think we should make recommendations about policy implications here, because if it's gonna come back in one way or another. Let's
One
come
way or
back
the
to
other,
that.
it's coming back.
And I just want to note, just for the record, I currently, in my professional job, I have 7 apartments, affordable units, where tenants are Airbnb an affordable unit, all paying less than $1,100. And in one case, they're making $8,000 a month. I'm in court and going through this, but it is so frustrating to think that there's 7 units out there that are affordable, that are being used for business, right?
7 units.
And, so this kind of thing really does happen, and that building is a fully residential building at 408 West 36th Street with a residential C of O, and it is 100% run as a hotel or Airbnb. I think we have had a healthy debate tonight, sorry.
I wanted to just note, speaking of your business, I want to say thank you to CHDC. This building, people do not know is a CHDC building, and without us having a home for Community Board 4, you have offered, as you had before the pandemic, all of your spaces for us to have our meetings. And we actually have evidence what a good, organized, affordable housing building is like.
But there's always bumps.
There's always bumps. But
yes.
Oh, I just said, there's always bumps.
But I wanted to just acknowledge, because I've missed a lot of meetings, and I don't know if anyone has formally acknowledged that where we are is one of your buildings that you generously provided for the community board, so thank you.
So, motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Wait a
adjourn.
minute, can I just do it?
Oh, no.
Come on, sorry.
Public service announcement.
Quick public service announcement. Medicaid currently pays for certain populations, housing support, rental assistance, utilities payments with back rent if you have issues, remediation for mold, for pests and the like, food, pantry stocking, kitchen utensils and the like, and transportation. Medicaid will fund those, so there's a program, for,
It's for very specific population.
it's for Medicaid members on managed care who
It's a
have.
federal waiver that
It's a
kind
waiver.
of allows them to do this.
Correct. And about 30% of Medicaid members are eligible. And if any Medicaid member can be screened and referred to any available service, that exists now. So my company, my organization,
Which is,
Public Health Solutions, is responsible. We have stood up the network and run that for Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens.
So great.
And so I have cards, English, Spanish with a QR code and telephone number, flyers, English, Spanish. I can have somebody come and describe it at another meeting or
Thank
the
you very
full
much.
board, but just wanted, if anybody has the option or the ability to share this with people, I have information on that.
And it's to the electeds and the board.
Pardon?
Is it gone to the electeds and Jesse?
So they can
Oh,
put
yeah.
it in their newsletters.
We have met with electeds about it, but.
So we can ask Jesse to distribute it to the electeds to add to their newsletter, and then Jesse can put it in his e-blast.
that motion to adjourn was from where?
Yeah.
Second. All those in favor? Happy holidays.
Thank you all for your comment.
Thank you, guys, online. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Nellie.
Just